Tony has authored
over 100 books
and coached many of the world's top leaders and CEOs.
The Results Guy.
The Results Guy.
Hey, Tony Jeary here. I'm in my Results Center, and I'm going to talk to you today about one of my favorite books, Results Faster. And in fact, I believe results is something that almost every single person wants more of. And in today's world, people want results faster. I've written over 100 books, and I believe that life can be changed by a single book. Think about it. Books can go where you can't go, and they can stay longer than you can stay. And I want to take the next few minutes of your time, and I'm going to pour into you the highlights of this powerful book I wrote. In fact, it's the summary of my first 43 books. All right, get ready. Where did this methodology come from? Years back, I was very fortunate to be able to have a wonderful president by the name of Jim Norman. Jim happened to be Zig Ziglar's son-in-law. And once he stopped being Zig's president, he became my president. But it took me 10 years to convince him to become my president. So he left the Zig organization. I asked him to become my president. He said he'd become my coach. And 10 years later, he said, I'll become your president. But then he gave me a condition. And the condition was, he said he wanted to be able to interview our clients and find out why they were flying in from all over the world to be able to have me invest a day with them. And what he did is he came back and he said, Tony, what you're doing is you're giving people more clarity, more focus, and helping them execute. So we ended up writing a little book. We published 10,000 of those little books called The Passport to Strategic Acceleration. Then we sent those all out to the world, and we got a phone call from the US Senate. And in fact, they said we need more clarity, focus, and execution. So I flew up to Washington. I delivered my message to the top people running the Senate, and they loved it. So I came back home and I told Jim, I said, Jim, we're onto something. He said, no, that's what you do. You help people get more clear, more focused, and execute better. And that's the way this methodology became. Then what we did is we wrote a best-selling book called Strategic Acceleration. And then a few years later, here's what happened. My good friend, Stuart Johnson, at the time owned Success Magazine. And he phoned me up one day and said, hey, I'd like to do a very powerful video series, a video course inside the Success Partner methodology. And I said, let's talk some more. And so he hired a wonderful lady who was part of the Tony Robbins organization to come in and look at and craft this beautiful course. And we launched the Results Faster course. And it was such a hit that we decided just a few months later to turn it into a book. Now, most of the time, you do a book first. As the book wins and really is attracted to people, then you take the time and invest it in the course. We did just the opposite. We actually took the course first and put it out to the world. We got the great response, and then we turned it into a book. So again, what I'm about to share with you right now is the 7 modules that make up the entire course and what we put in the book so you can get the best. Let's go. Now what we're going to talk about is the modules. We're going to dive in to the 7 components of this book. And what we did is we really thought through how do we weave everything together, and we narrowed it down to 21 lessons. Then we divided those lessons each into 7 different buckets. And now we're going to go to each one of those buckets at a highlight. The first bucket is called strategic mindset. What we believe, if you want to get results faster, it starts with mindset. It starts with your thinking. A lot of people don't do enough thinking. Do you? Do you do enough thinking? Most people don't. And in fact, some of my top executives asked me when I'm coaching and pouring into their people to make sure that I'm making a high leverage activity for them to be thinking. Thinking is such a big part of being successful. So I encourage you, takeaway number 1, strategic mindset. Make sure that you're balancing thinking and doing. A lot of people do a lot and they don't think enough. And a lot of people think a lot and they procrastinate and don't do enough. And so in the book, in this first module, we really talk about strategic IQ, balancing thinking and doing. So there's your takeaway. Make sure that you're balancing what you're doing with thinking, and you're doing enough or both or the other. Again, too much thinking, you procrastinate. Too much doing, you don't think enough, and you miss the ability to do things, to be able to uncover best practices, for example. Another piece to the thinking puzzle is what's on your window. Like we all grow up, and what do we grow up with? We grew up with our parents teaching us things, our teachers teaching us things. We started reading books, having experiences, our coaches coaching us. And then we formed these principles on our window, truisms, if you will. And the way that we operate from the world in our mindset is based upon those principles in our window. And the more things that we have in our window that are universally correct, the more effective faster we can go, and the more effective we can be on being able to create results. However, if you have limited beliefs or inaccurate principles on your window, that can cause you not to be the best you can be. So how do you solve that? We simply believe that if you have the right advice, wrote a whole book on it called Advice Matters, that really does matter. You want to make sure that you have the right what? The right mentors, the right coaches, you have the right trusted colleagues, you have the right resources, you have the right experiences, the paid advisors, and even that you want to make sure that you're looking at your own patterns and you combine all those things, and that way you can have your best thinking. Number 2 of the 7 modules is clarity. Clarity is the big piece to the puzzle. We all know that the more clear you are, the more pulling power you get. So we want to make sure that we have clear goals, we have clear priorities, we have a clear vision on where we're going. The more clear we are, the more pulling power that we have. Just think about that, pulling power. Ask yourself right now, how clear are you on where you're going this week, this month, this year, in this decade, in your life? The more clarity you have, the more pulling power that you have to be able to propel you forward. Now, the 3rd module is focus. So many people have distractions, and in fact, so many people get lost in distractions. How about you? The opposite of distraction is focus. And the number one thing from all these books that I've written over the last 30 years is a concept I'm about to give you now, and it's called, get this, ready? High leverage activities. We want to make sure that we're putting our energy into the things that matter the most. And in fact, most people, they don't really have that focus, and they get off into distractions, and that could be you. So takeaway number 3 of our modules is to make sure that we have really strong focus and we're clear on our high leverage activities. Now think about this. If someone asks you to go to lunch, do you say yes? And if you say yes, you commit to what do you commit to? Maybe 90 minutes versus tell me more. And all of a sudden someone says, well, I want to go to lunch with you because I want you to introduce me to somebody. And you say, well, I know that somebody really well. Why don't I email connect to that somebody? And instead of having lunch, I can just connect you right to them. And you say to yourself, wow, I didn't really want to have lunch with you anyway. I just want to meet that person. But you can oftentimes give someone what they want, and you can say no to what they're asking and still give them what they want if you take the time. If you take the time to get really clear on your high leverage activities. Number 4 of our modules is execution. We need to make sure that we're not planning, and not taking action. The more action we take, of course, the better we are, especially if it's focused and obviously if it's clearly on target of what we're doing. So we have to make sure that we take action in the execution piece. And what we talk about in the book that I'd like you to take away right now is the measurable action is what really counts. Make sure that you're seeing every day, are you getting the X in the box? Every week, are you making progress towards what you clearly want? So that's number 4. Okay, let's go to number 5 now, and that's what we call force multipliers. Force multipliers are things that you can do that really generate more impact. We want to constantly be asking our advisors. We want to constantly be getting down and zeroing in on the things that's going to matter the most. So many times we do things that don't matter the most. So getting clear from a company or from a business perspective, what are the things that are going to really give you the most traction? That's what makes a difference. Being able to really understand the best practices. Are you constantly going out and searching for what's worked, what's not worked, and put the energy towards what has worked? Number 6 in the modules of the book is leadership. We lead ourselves, we lead our families, and we lead our organizations. So no matter what your situation is, even if you're just an individual producer, you want to make sure you're leading yourself to be the very best you can. Let me ask you this. When's the last time you studied how to be a better leader of yourself? When's the last time you studied leadership at all? When's the last time you studied anything in terms of being better? Obviously, you're watching this, so I want to applaud you and appreciate you for doing that. What I'm suggesting is in today's world, there's so much wonderful content out there. If you want to be a better leader, make sure you're studying how to be your very best. And then number 7, the last one, number 7 of our modules is called mastery. We believe to get the results you want faster, mastery is a must. One of the biggest takeaways that I share in the mastery puzzle is the concept called a life team member. So many times people don't think about if you have people in your life that can give you advice or help you execute, that you can do so much more. So asking yourself right now, do you have anybody that might be cleaning your car every now and then? Or do you have someone that might be giving you advice from a legal perspective? Or do you go to a dentist to have your teeth cleaned? We have all these people that help us do life, but most people are not strategic about helping those people win as well. And so the more you can be intentional as a real master of your life to get results, all those people around you can help you do things, and they can help you do things at a whole different level if you have that thinking to be able to pour into them and help them win. And the last thing that I like to wrap up with the book with is what is our 21st lesson, which is in the 7th module of mastery, and that's called habits. You're going to be exactly who you are next week, next month, next year, except for the habits that you perform. And you got to really understand, if the habits aren't producing the results you want, you need to change the habits that you have. The better your habits, the better your results. So there you have it. Let me wrap it up again with this little wrap up. Here we go. 7 things. Number 1, you want to make sure you have your thinking right. The right strategic mindset does matter. Number 2, you want to make sure that you have clarity where you're going, because clarity pulls. Number 3, you want to make sure you focus your energy. You don't want to have distractions. No. You want to make sure you pour your energy. And in fact, most people don't even know how much time is given in a given week. Like, how many hours in a given week? When I ask that question around the world, only like 1 out of 20 people can answer. Can you answer the question, how many hours are in a week, without calculating? 168 hours. And so when you sleep for 8 hours a day, that's 8 times 7, that's 56. You take 12 hours for maintenance, then you end up with only 100 hours. And how you invest or how you focus that 100 hours makes a big difference. And then finally, execution. You got to make sure and take action. You want to make sure that you're constantly looking at what? You want to make sure that you're leveraging force multipliers, you're being the best leader you can be, and you're living a masterful life by really making sure you have people around you and you are zeroing in on your best habits. There you have it.